Are the things that you're doing in your life coming from deep conscious intention, or are they just simply reactions? And you really want to be careful with a question like this because it's easy for your mind to deceive itself. No, Lucas, the things I do aren't reactions. I'm actually aware and I'm intending on the things that I'm doing. When we actually look at the experience of life, most of the things that people do are just simply reactions. And in this video, I want to tell you how to start living with intention in a more practical way so that your life doesn't slowly get formed in a way that's undesirable. Because when you're living simply according to reaction, and a lot of it is just deeply unconscious, how can you really shape up your life and craft it in a way that actually fits you well, in a way that's actually desirable for you? Because all you're really going to be acting out of is your conditioning, subconscious beliefs, things you're just not aware of, subconscious emotions that are unprocessed, subconscious behaviors, and just a whole bunch of things that you've either picked up from culture, right, the environment around you, childhood, pain, and just avoiding internal pain. It's all this kind of stuff that's really going to be determining your life. It's not really going to be consciously constructed by you, which is inevitably going to lead to a life of a lot of unnecessary suffering. Because your life just simply won't fit you. It's not going to be a comfortable fit for you. It will be uncomfortable. So living intentionally means making conscious choices that align with your values and goals rather than acting based off of triggers and just habit. Humans are creatures of habit. We like to kind of continuously execute the same thing over and over and over and over again. And when we actually look at what a lot of these habits are and kind of where they came from, a lot of them are simply coping mechanisms for pain or things we kind of just picked up from the environment around us. Kind of just like look at the patterns of a lot of the Western world. What really are they? It's distraction, mindless entertainment, eating for pleasure, not for nutrition, going to jobs that we hate, that aren't very healthy for us or the world, a lot of very poor relationships, and of course I can keep going on, and then escaping that from Friday night through Sunday. And of course I can kind of go on even more about that, but I'm not going to. So we can really begin to see that a lot of the habits, right, our habitual behaviors that we do are just the avoidance of pain or just forms of conditioning that we're not even conscious of, things that we haven't really even investigated or consciously constructed for ourselves, things we've kind of just been like infected with. And this begins to determine the life that you actually live. And odds are the life you really want to live deep down isn't one of just avoiding the internal pain that exists inside of you or acting in alignment with the sort of mental diseases that are kind of transmitted through culture and upbringing and the internet. A lot of it nowadays is just kind of on the internet and it's all garbage. But the life that you really want to live comes from the things that you organically care about, the personality structure that you have, your own energy levels. And I really urge you to deeply investigate your own personality. Have you ever even spent a week kind of just contemplating your personality, taking tests, testing them out, testing the results out for yourself, seeing kind of what sticks? It's like you got to kind of be like the scientist of your own life and just kind of like experiment on yourself a lot. Learning things, testing things, and over time you start to develop this better understanding of yourself, and you start to build up this intuition of like what is the path for you, what fits well with you, who fits well with you, how that works, etc. So by actually caring about constructing a good idea, a good mental model of your own personality, your values, things like this, naturally you can start to align your life to this internal phenomena. Because when your life is continuously acting out of alignment, when your external world is out of alignment with your internal world, there's going to be a deep sense of something is wrong. And you might not be able to really put your finger on it, but you might think that I don't really like my job. I always kind of feel tired and exhausted, and I feel drained doing what I'm doing. I don't feel alive or passionate about life. I never feel like I love life. My relationships are never very good. I don't really feel deep, satisfying connections with people. And really, when we're just kind of stuck in that, it's very easy to see at this point, because of the picture I'm painting in this video, that a life like that is almost just not even worth living. Who would actually select that life instead of the life that actually fits them? Who would actually select the life where their career makes them suffer, and so does their relationships, and they don't feel passionate about life? Like, no one is actually going to want to consciously select that life. So why do we actually unconsciously create that for ourselves? I want you to begin to answer that question on your own. I'm not going to go into that in this video. So I want to talk a little bit about reactivity and reaction, since that's a core theme of this. Since the kind of duality I'm painting here is living from reaction versus, living from intention versus living from reaction. So what's really going on with reactivity? Essentially, subconscious beliefs, emotions, and past experiences are driving our responses. And a good example of this is, let's say you experience frustration in a disagreement, right? And you start to just get like very frustrated. The frustration that you're experiencing in that moment has little to do with the actual experience that you're having. It has more to do with past experiences, subconscious beliefs, subconscious emotions, that are all kind of working together. Your system, your underlying system, is kind of working together to create this experience, and you don't really see that it's doing so. And it has a lot to do, for example, maybe with not being properly heard or connected to in a past situation, maybe just not properly being seen in a past situation. And then that frustration and the pain of that kind of just remains. So our past experiences and the conditioning that we have is going to replay itself endlessly until we decide to consciously intervene. You can kind of think right now that you have this almost like set destiny for your life, and unless there's some kind of intervening force, it's going to just kind of remain on that trajectory. Your patterns will just play themselves out, and what is there to stop them? Right? I want you to keep in mind that we are very habitual creatures, meaning that our whole system is designed to continuously reinforce itself for survival purposes, not overexpending energy. Our brain likes to predict the future based off of present and past circumstances. And it's like we're constantly trying to recreate ourselves, right, in what we deem as like safe throughout our life. And what we deem as safe doesn't always have our best interests in mind, although it might think it does. That part of us might think that it has our best interests in mind. Our actual best interest can be totally different from what that part of us thinks. We can have a part of us that just kind of wants to be safe. And what safe means to that part of us is just our sort of current way of being. Whether it's sick or healthy, that doesn't matter. What matters is that this is kind of our state. This is what we are currently identifying with. This is our sort of norm, and we're going to keep recreating that. Doesn't matter if it's sick or if it's healthy. It's just trying to protect the status quo. It's a homeostatic system. So you can be in a profound state of sickness, and you kind of want to keep perpetuating that sickness because it's safe. Your mind can instinctually kind of detect it as safe. It's kind of this delusion, right? It's pretty obvious to you, I hope by now, that it's this sort of delusion. It's not really true. And a good example of this, so you begin to really understand what I'm saying here, is maybe people who are very, I'll use the word addicted to creating their own suffering, which is practically everyone on earth. We can continuously want to, let's say, play the victim or endlessly complain or do something that sabotages ourselves, our own well-being, and creates unnecessary suffering. And that self-sabotage can be a way that we unconsciously try to protect ourselves and establish safety in order to potentially avoid some kind of pain, some kind of truth, some kind of reality. And that pattern can perpetuate itself into the future, and it will keep doing that until we finally consciously intervene. So, a lot of what's going on when you're being reactive is just, like I said, subconscious beliefs, emotions, past experiences that are influenced by fear, insecurity, and unprocessed emotions. I want you to contemplate that a little bit for yourself, so it really clicks in. The reactivity that you do in your life, which is most of what you do, this is most experiences that you have by a lot, like 90 to 95%, is mainly insecurity, fear, and unprocessed emotion. We're always just reacting to life, especially if you haven't really practiced a lot of meditation or have done some pretty extensive psychological healing and self-actualization work. You're going to inevitably be stuck in that conditioning because it's never been processed and kind of seen. And you're never going to go beyond just strictly survival mode. So you're always going to be in constant states of threat and avoidance and insecurity in order to survive, because these kinds of feelings and perceptions are very useful for surviving, always predicting some kind of outcome, some kind of bad outcome, some kind of threat, something to go wrong. Right? This will just kind of be like the norm for survival purposes. So I spoke very briefly about meditation, and I kind of want to hammer that down a little bit more. So mindfulness basically builds that skill inside of you to simply watch yourself, which is the pure antidote to reactivity. Reactivity is just a sort of knee-jerk, momentary experience where you're just not very aware of yourself and you're kind of just acting out of some kind of fear, insecurity, pain, like I said. And mindfulness basically allows you to just start watching that. And through this process of intervening over and over and over again with your patterns, it starts to naturally break them down. Through this process of just observing the self, this is an actual healing thing, and all that sort of baggage that's controlling you that you're not really aware of starts to come to the surface. You start to be able to feel your emotions properly. Your body can actually start to feel alive rather than numb. It can feel sensational and pleasurable rather than numb and dull. And it essentially allows you to slowly begin to respond rather than simply react out of habit and unconscious pain. And I really want you to think right now about a time in your life when you were reactive. A time where you just kind of went unconscious and you just kind of, I don't want to use the word lost it, but that's kind of what's coming to mind right now. But a time where you just kind of maybe snapped or something like that. You know what I mean. I'm sure you know what I mean. And I want you to think in that moment how hard it was for you to actually kind of wake up. It's like your conditioning kind of like took you over. It's almost like you were hijacked by some kind of like entity, by some kind of like force, and it was just kind of controlling you. And in the midst of that, I want you to recognize how hard it is for you to be honest, to be clear, to be in alignment with what's true, to be healthy. And I want you to kind of start thinking that if we were always living our life out of that state, what's that going to actually be creating here on planet Earth? What's that going to be creating in your own life? What kind of relationships will you have? How will you raise your kids? What's your career going to look like? What's the value that you're going to provide to people? What's that going to look like? What's your well-being going to look like? Are you going to be happy, fulfilled, self-actualized, self-transcended? Are you even going to be very intelligent whatsoever? Will you be emotionally intelligent, cognitively intelligent, physically, spatially, existentially? You can see that all the quality of all this stuff is going to radically diminish because we're acting like dumb animals rather than using our human capabilities to actually create heaven on earth and heaven within ourselves. So, a massive part of living with intention requires clarity about what matters most to you. And this clarity helps guide your decisions and actions, ensuring that they align with your core values. I really want you to start kind of digging into what are your own core values. I do a lot of one-to-one coaching with people where we're digging into this over time to the point where people are clear about a lot of the things that they value. And most people never in their life ever even decide to contemplate, hey, what do I actually value in life? That's pretty important to recognize. Just what do I really value? Rather than always reacting to this or that. I gotta go to work, gotta feed myself, gotta feed the dog or the cat, the kid, gotta go out with my friends, what's on TV, what's on Instagram, smartphone. And then rather than just like always in this kind of reacting to the circumstances of life, just kind of sitting back and no, like what do I really value? Like most of the stuff I'm doing, I don't value. I don't care about it. It makes me feel sick and dull and numb. What do I really value? Do I value feeling safe and secure? Do I value connecting with people? Do I value having a deep sense of life purpose that merges with my career? Do I value my own development, my own well-being? Do I value simply feeling healthy and alive? Do I value my full emotional spectrum so that I can be emotionally well? Do I value my own self-transcendence? Do I value what's true? Do I really value what's true? Or do I just lie to myself? And do I tell myself that I value what's true? So you can begin to kind of get that a lot of your core values are this sort of guiding force in your life, that when you begin to get clear about what is actually of value to you, you can begin to use this kind of roadmap to guide your decisions in a way that fosters very deep and lasting authenticity, basically through raising your awareness of yourself and recognizing things that you just simply didn't recognize before because you were too busy just reacting to life. So by making proactive decisions, you actually start to create more freedom in your life rather than always being swept along by reactions. And what I mean here by proactive decisions is something like maybe setting time, for example, in your day to just protect your own personal time because you want to spend it meditating or reflecting, building some kind of structure in your life, some kind of routine, some kind of foundation to it so that your psychology can work properly, so that you can be mentally clear and sharp and well, rather than just kind of reacting to every request that comes your way or any sort of like distraction that comes into your life. Just having some very intentional time where you are proactively working on this stuff. This is where practically everyone fails, right? We watch the videos, maybe you even read a book, who knows? But when it comes to sitting down and meditating, when it comes to just solo contemplating your core values, when it comes to building these sort of practical things in your life so that the results actually occur, this is where, in my experience with coaching people, 99% of people completely fall short. And this is the place that the rubber, of course, meets the road. This is the place where we're going to have things like subconscious resistance. We're going to have all sorts of blocks occur. because there's no escaping us now. We've heard the information, we have to act on it, and we know we have to. There's no avoiding it now. Once we realize the pain of avoiding it and where that's going to take us, and we really don't want that, we really strongly choose against that, it becomes very hard to just simply go on with life, being kind of ignorant and just kind of distracting yourself with mindless pleasure. So this is basically where most people fall short due to fear. Just more subconscious blocks. Not laziness or because they're stupid or anything like this. It's mostly just kind of subconscious blocks, things that they're just unaware of. And this is kind of why I'm always advocating for raising your consciousness on this channel, because when you allow yourself to become more aware, this is a healing force, like I stated earlier. This naturally begins to heal yourself. It's like this sort of auto-correcting force on your life. You know, when you're typing on your phone and then it kind of just auto-corrects? Awareness is kind of like that. It's almost like if you're putting your hand on a stove and it's hot, right, and it burns and you're painfully aware of what you've done, you're not going to do it again. It's auto-corrected now. You know, yeah, don't touch the hot stove. That sucked. It's not a pleasurable experience whatsoever. That was painful, hurt a lot, got no gain from it. Becoming aware allows you to start auto-correcting things. It's just very, very healthy for your mind, body, soul, consciousness, etc. That's it for this video. If you're interested in working one-to-one with me, you can apply to do so. Link is in the pinned comment. Take it easy.